Welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Hermson, and I am your host. I'm here today with Denise Myer, who is running for Reno City Council, Ward 3. Welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yes, great to have you here. You are listening to the LaRue Press Network, which is also airs on 93.7 from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tuesdays for our What's the Story regular show. But I'm doing some interviews with candidates and hoping that this is primarily in the Nevada area, and hoping that people will be able to learn a little bit more. If you have questions, you can submit some questions to us via either 775-399-2888, which is the cell number, or you can comment on Facebook and YouTube. I'm not sure that my Rumble comments are coming through, so I'm not going to recommend that right now. So anyway, we're going to talk about Denise, and we stick to the issues here. We like to talk issues and find out exactly what is this candidate going to do if she gets elected. So Denise, welcome.
Thank you.
And as we start off, I'd like you to talk a little bit about yourself and also the area that you cover, because yours is a really interesting. I looked at that map and I went, "Ooh, that's weird." So,
it is such a great diverse area. So Ward 3 is on the east and west side of the airport. So on the east side, it's got Donner Springs, Miraloma, Smith Ridge area. And then on the west side of the airport, we've got the Wells Avenue corridor. We've got the VA hospital, and that goes part of Midtown over to Plumas. So big diversity in
right.
People, citizens who live there, residents. It's really great.
That must be very challenging for you when you're going out walking.
It is. It can be, but it's fun. I have just met some of the greatest people, and I've found streets. I grew up here. I'm actually a lifelong resident of Reno. I moved here in 1962 when I was small. My father got a job here, and I've been here since. And there's streets that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, it was funny. Some of the ones that I discovered, and I've met some really great people. I met the original owner of the Bonanza Casino up on North Virginia.
Wow.
His family settled here in 1860, and the house he lived in near Wells Avenue, his father built, and it used to be a farm. Oh. Now there's all neighborhoods. So
yeah, but isn't it true? You know, you live somewhere for so long, you tend to go the same places, the same routes, and even if you're diverted a little bit, you kind of know where you're going, and you don't really notice the streets. I was noticing I went a different way coming into the office, and I saw this street, and I said, "Oh, I don't think I knew the name of that street before," and I've lived here for a long time.
Yeah,
so not as long as you, but a while.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the area that you serve, and also let's talk about the Reno City Council first, and what the role is that you have as a council member, because there are 7 members on the council, correct? Now that we have that new ward, we have Ward 6. Yeah. I'm actually in Ward 6.
Oh, okay. So before they, had Ward 6, we had an at-large. So it will still say 7, but the at-large position is going away.
Oh, okay. So I picked that up off the internet. Sorry, don't believe everything you read.
Yeah, and actually, these ward boundaries do not go into effect until the 5th of November.
Oh, okay.
So they did all of the redistricting last year, and my husband and I went to every one of the meetings. So part of where I am campaigning right now, where I go out knocking doors, is actually part of Jenny Breckis's Ward 1. But as of the 5th of November, they will be Ward 3.
And should you win, when do you get sworn in?
I believe it's in January.
That's what I thought.
I didn't see the exact date, but yeah,
okay.
I think that is somewhere the second week in January.
Okay. And just for the record, I have invited Denise's opponent to come on here as well. So I'm hoping that I'll hear back from him and that he will join us as well.
Yeah.
So
That would be interesting.
yeah. I like to, I always invite both sides and, hopefully.
That's how you make an
Right.
informed decision.
Exactly.
You hear both sides and then
Yep.
make up your mind.
Absolutely.
So, city council, part of their responsibilities are fiscal, the taxes, property taxes, sewer. They also take care of development, zoning, and parks and recreation. So there's a big variety of what they do. They are community oriented. So the decisions they make affect the everyday life of the citizens. So not anything federal. They don't. City council
Right.
doesn't get into any of that. They just do what's best for the community.
Right. And
ultimately.
the focus for 23 through 25 has really already been determined by
Mhm.
the existing council. So you're going to kind of come in and pick up where others have left off and reinforce what's already been decided, which is what they're saying is that in 22, the city council identified where they'd like to see significant progress: fiscal responsibility, as you were just saying, police and fire services, housing affordability, and then master plan implementation, community sustainability, and downtown revitalization. So big things to do. And how long do you serve? Should you?
4 years.
4 years. So you
4
got 4
years.
years to work on that.
Yep. Downtown revitalization is something I would really, that's on my wish list. So I have a lot of wish lists because you don't know who's going to be sitting on the dais
Right.
in January. So I may be the only one that's conservative on the dais and everybody else is not. So
Right.
that will be an uphill battle, but hopefully
And-
the other two conservatives
And
get
since you
elected.
bring that up, do you have in your mind, and you may not want to share all of it, but do you have a strategy in mind on how to hopefully encourage some compromise from the other side should you find yourself in that position?
I don't have an exact plan, but I have been a supervisor for a major airline. And with that, I have had to learn to work with many different, I've traveled the world with the airline and I've had to work with a lot of different people. And even in my job that I settled into here in Reno after I retired from Delta, as a safety manager, I had 3 different areas where I was a manager, safety manager, and you have to learn to
Work together.
And compromise. And I don't think so much of it as compromising as it is this. I can give a little and you give a little, and let's make this work together. I've been able to work with people that I don't always agree with what they think,
and I think in our current environment, I mean, we have such a brutal, difficult. Seems like everybody's going at each other instead of talking to each other.
Mhm.
And with that, I think that I find it hard to see how to make those adjustments because you're also facing not only your constituents that are on the same side of the aisle as you, but your constituents that aren't. And then those that are on the same side of the aisle have an expectation of you that maybe you can't fulfill.
Right.
I mean, not if you're going to serve all your constituents, right? I mean, how do you do that?
I had small business encouragement is something I want. I want them to succeed because I really believe small business is the backbone of Reno's economy. They really need to thrive. So Midtown small businesses got together 10 questions to ask me, how are you going to do this when you get into office? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? I won't make a promise. I would only make a promise that I know I can keep. And there's no way I can promise to do anything on that dais without knowing every aspect. I'm in my bachelor's. I have an environmental economics, and it focused on data analysis. So you have to know so many different sides before you know how to do your analysis and how you're going to come up against things. And that's how, and I didn't answer their questions. I just told them, I want to work with you. I can't answer these questions specifically. I can't, I'm not
Right. You'd be
going
lying.
to. Yeah, exactly.
In essence.
But I would be glad to hear any perspective you have. If you want to meet with me and talk with me, I will be more than happy to do that. And that's one of the things that I really want to focus on if I get elected is communication, because right now there's not a lot of communication among the residents. And I can only say Ward 3 because that's all I do. And what goes on in the city council. Almost 95% of the people don't know that we have a neighborhood advisory board.
Oh,
So the
wow.
neighborhood advisory board is where people go to hear what's happening in your neighborhoods, what new buildings going to be happening, or streets, and I really want to encourage that.
So do you think that that's because the city council as a whole perhaps has not done a good job of doing whatever it takes to communicate that? Is that lack of media? Is that they don't have budgets to send out notices? I mean, there's got to be
Yeah.
a reason for it.
I don't know a reason why. I know that before I got into politics, I had no idea about a neighborhood advisory board. And I've lived in my house for 5 years. I never knew it existed. I go now, and it's really poor turnout, which is disappointing. So I really like to focus on the future. What can I do? And for me, I've talked to people about it, and I've had a few people that I said, I'm going to come back to you when I get elected and ask you to come and be on the board or come and participate. We want to hear what you have to say.
Do people like that shy away when you tell them that? They say, "Oh no, I don't want to go."
they kind of go, well, we'll just see if you're gonna. But
Yeah.
I have a couple of people, and I take notes when I door knock and go, okay, I'm going to go back to this person.
Right.
Because and a couple of the people don't totally align with me on what I think, and
Sure.
I think that variety of perspective is really what will bring the community together. I really want a community together. Another thing that happens with lack of communication is I don't know how my opponent votes without going through each and every city council meeting on YouTube or wherever they post it and taking notes of what is going on. I don't know. There's no place to find that out. So one of the things I want to do is to have either, I don't know if it's Facebook or a web page, but have a place where people can go, and after each meeting, I will post and say, this is what happened at the meeting. This is what was voted on. This is how I voted. We should be able to find it immediately. Hey, I wasn't able to hear that meeting or go to it, and there was something that they were voting on, and I want to know how my representative voted. So if you're not pleased with me, I want to hear that. I don't want to hear somebody who's just smiling in my face and going, yes, yes, yes. I want somebody to tell me, hey, I didn't like that, and this is why.
Okay. So you have posted your platform online, and your platform aligns basically with the first three, from what I can tell: fiscal responsibility, police and fire services, housing affordability. You've kind of focused on those as your topics. Talk a little bit about fiscal responsibility and how you're going to help to keep us fiscally responsible.
So
Just seems like such a joke anymore. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but wow.
So
who's fiscally responsible besides the individuals?
Right.
Right.
And again, city council is supposed to be for the good of the community. Misspending our dollars is not fiscally responsible. So my opponent, and hopefully he can come and
Respond.
tell you
Yeah.
what but he had an ethics complaint filed against him 2-3 weeks ago because he went on a trip for the city of Reno, and
He did own that though, didn't he?
once it came out publicly.
Okay.
So the reason he owned it was because there was an audit that said, hey, you were supposed to spend this much money, $250 on a room, and he spent $900.
Oof.
So had he not been exposed from the audit, he would have never said anything. But he wasn't the only one. There's another one. Devin Reese also was found to do the same thing. But with my opponent, he was appointed and he had only been in his seat for a year. So he wasn't elected by the people.
Right.
And so he's misspending their money without them having ever elected him into the seat. And what makes anybody think that it's okay to go and
spend
that much more money on a hotel room? When I worked for Delta and I was an internal safety auditor and I traveled all over and I had a room budget. If I couldn't find a room at the budget that they gave me, there's a process that I went, because you know well in advance that you're going to go. So you put in, hey, this is the amount that I found that
is available
as a room, and I need permission to go ahead and before I book it. So there's a procedure to go through. So he just ignored the procedures. He just went ahead and misspent our money, and he also stayed 2 extra nights on our budget, our tax
I'm hoping
dollar.
he'll come on and be able to respond to that.
Yeah. And I would be interested to hear what
Right.
he has to say, you know.
Right.
And I feel like with this election, we're not voting on personalities, because I'm sure he's a perfectly nice man. He's got a wife and 2 lovely daughters. And I'm a very nice lady. I have 3 daughters and 4 and 1 on the way grandchildren. So it's about where you stand with your responsibility to the community. And I really feel like ethics and integrity is very responsible. I'm not somebody who's going to be swayed. And I've been around long enough that I don't care if you like me or not, if I don't vote the way that you want me to. But except for my constituents, of course. But you know, if somebody else on the council says, you know, you're a terrible person, and if you vote this way, that's not gonna sway me. I want to know facts. I'm not going to vote on feelings. I'm going to vote on facts. And you know, one of the things that I feel, and I just talked about this the other day, is our leaders, we're supposed to obey our leaders and give them respect and obey their authority. However, when they cease being good and doing good for the community, they cease being an authority. So then we need to do something to replace them. And I feel like that's where we are right now.
Okay, and then as far as another topic is the housing affordability, which is a huge topic in every category. It doesn't seem to matter which candidate you are. Yeah, that housing comes into it, including homelessness, because housing doesn't only mean for homeless; it also means for the you and me's of the world.
So I am the vice chair of the Washoe County Senior Advisory Board, and we have in our master plan, we're redoing our master plan, and senior housing is one of those topics. I'm on that committee, and it's really heartbreaking for so many seniors who have worked all their life and they can't afford a home. They've been
priced out. Yeah,
they have, and
renting is almost as bad, if not worse.
I know people. I've had people tell me that I own my own home, but I can't afford to live there because of the property taxes and the sewer taxes. I really feel like we should be able to have some compromise for housing for seniors. You know, I know one lady who,
and then that's, you talk about seniors, but on the flip side, for young people that are just starting out, for a family, a young family that's got a couple of kids, I mean, this has got to be really challenging. Yeah.
I can remember in 2008 when we had
Oh,
that
yeah, the
housing.
crash. Yeah,
Well, and just before all of the houses just went up so
Yep.
high, and that was my first thought because I had young children that were just starting out their life, going, how are they going to buy a house now?
that's true.
And the house and those houses back then, I would like those prices again because it's now. I mean, my house that I'm in right now, I bought, and it was. I think I spent $250 or $225 on it, and right now it's upwards of the high 400s in the value, and I'm just going,
Right. It just
Really,
seems
this
so
little-
wrong. Yeah.
my little house. So, and I'm very happy in my little house. I have a big garden. I love my garden, so that's my stress relief time, is out in
Yeah.
the garden.
Yeah.
But
So as far as housing goes, so you're serving on the committee for the seniors. What about for the young folks? What are we going to do about that?
If I had the answer to that question, I would be so rich. But and it's just kind of like it snowballed. It just all of a sudden felt like it got there. So it took time to get there. It's going to take time to get
Beyond it.
Yeah, and maybe level out those. My husband is a realtor, so I'm watching as young people calling him to see if they could afford a house, and his daughter is one of those where she'd like to buy a house, and she has a little fixer upper that she took, but it's just. I don't know what the answer is, but it's going to take working with landlords. It's going to take working with developers, working with different stakeholders in there. I know that City Council has said that ADUs are going to be
Defined for the audience. ADU.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are the additional dwelling units,
Yeah.
which are mother-in-law quarters,
Right,
basically,
right.
right? The little casitas. However, to build those, the materials aren't going to be any less than
No,
to build a
it's
full
true.
size. So if somebody builds that, they're not building it with lower income people in
Right.
mind. They're going to be either Airbnb-ing it, they're going to rent it out for market price.
Right.
And so I don't see that as any kind of a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody is, if they can do that, I think that it's okay, but I just don't see that as a solution
For the housing
for the
crisis, yeah.
housing crisis.
And then let's touch a little bit on the homeless, because that's a huge topic, and it
Mhm.
seems like we're spending so much money. And I know that Washoe County is really who manages that, but
But-
it still has an effect via
Right.
Reno. Right.
Once they walk off the Karis campus, they're in the city of Reno.
Right.
So, and again, here's a problem that, I mean, when I grew up here, you barely ever saw a homeless
Right.
person. And now it's just crazy how many
Right.
that we have. And people, I think there's a triage that needs to be done for homeless, because not everybody's homeless for the same reason.
Right.
I know in our church, we have our pastor is looking for a house to help some men who have fallen by the wayside, gotten themselves clean, and now they have a good job, but they can't afford the rent on their own. They need to have some kind of housing where 3 or 4 could live together. But because they can't afford a place to live right now, they're living in their cars. So they're homeless. They're designated as homeless, but they're not anybody who has a mental kind of challenge
Sure.
that needs resources. They just need some place where they can afford to live. So, we're
So
trying-
maybe that's part of maybe somehow the city can work something out so that definition can happen
Mhm.
and help people to get what they need and to be directed in the
Yeah.
right places.
And we have homeless that they are fully capable of working, and they just choose to not be. I say that we should not be supporting them on my tax dollar. If you're capable of working and you can afford a place to live, but you're choosing to not, I think that they need to be cut off of their government funding.
Okay, let's talk about the police, because I don't think that we did touch on that at all. And that's such a, it's everything's touchy.
our police force are great. I've talked to several of them, and I really want to see some resources. Our police force are lower. They get a lower
Salary?
salary. Thank you. I can't think today.
All right.
Then other cities the same size. So, and our ratio of police force to the city to the citizens is something like 12-1. In other cities that are the same size, such as Raleigh, North Carolina, it's 16-19-1. So they have a bigger ratio. I've talked to several police officers. They're great. But they are wearing 3 and 4 different caps in order to get the job done. So they aren't always able to respond when they need to. If there's somebody who's, for instance, a neighbor had a homeless guy with a knife coming in her yard. She called the police and they said, well, is anybody hurt? Has he touched anybody? No. Well, it's not an emergency, so we can't send anybody right now.
My.
So you have to actually be touched and before they'll even come, because they don't have the resources.
Yeah.
But it's not because they don't want to. It's not because
Right.
they don't care. I think our police force is great.
Okay. And so in the budgeting process, which looks like it's getting ready to happen in, I believe it was January that I read. I don't have that document in front of me. Hold on a sec.
Yes, coming up here.
Yeah. Looks like the budget starts in, yes, January. Budget process begins in the department budget preparation. So you'd be walking right into that.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can help to at least petition for more money for the police.
Yeah.
How about that?
I would love to do that. Those guys are so great. They're really caring. I had a couple of years ago, I live across the street from a park, and I'm looking out my window and I see 2 police cars pull up, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, what's going on? I don't see any
Yeah.
person or anything there. They had gone down the street to the fast food place and gotten food for this family
Oh,
that was probably homeless, or they're very low income. And I went over and said, oh, would you mind if I posted this on Facebook? Because you guys get negative all the time. I want
Sure.
to put something positive. And they go, no, we don't want any. We
right.
don't
They
want to
weren't
be
looking for
recognized.
accolades.
Yeah. And so the one kid who was a mentally challenged kid, he goes, I want my picture on. So they went, okay, we'll do it. But they said, no, we do this because we care. And that's
nice.
how our police
That's
force
nice.
is. They care.
Yeah. So we just have a couple more minutes. Is
Okay.
there something you would like to say to the voting public that you'd like them to hear from Denise Myer?
My opinion is you need to vote in order to make changes. To make changes starts with those down ballot candidates, city council, county commissioner, school board. Those are the people that are going to make changes that you want in your community. And that's how, don't ignore those on your ballot. Please vote for all the way down your ballot. And if you don't vote, then you don't have a voice. And I hear so many people say, oh, my vote never counts. I don't, it doesn't matter if I vote or not. It does matter, because I have seen races all over the country.
Really close.
Very close. 15 votes, 20
Especially
votes.
the local races. Yeah.
Very much so. They are super important. And I really hope, so my new motto is, I want to clean up Reno City Council, and I'm the broom.
You just got a whole new vision for me.
And that's not the bad witch, that's the good witch.
There you go. There you go. Well, Denise, I think that I applaud you for stepping out and stepping up and going to represent our community. You wouldn't be my rep, but that's okay. You're still representing all of us.
That's true. When I
And-
make a vote, it's not just for my ward.
That's
It's
right.
for the whole city
It's
of
true.
Reno.
It's true. So check out your ballots and see who you've got in your particular ward, and make sure you find out about them, and vote for the candidate that aligns most with what you believe. And I
Mhm.
think that that's how this all works, or at least that's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work. Yep. Absolutely.
Denise, I appreciate you coming in
Thank you.
and talking to us today. And so stay tuned, folks. We'll have more candidates coming on if they agree. You know, sometimes they're too busy. Sometimes they just say no. That's all I can tell you. All right. So thank you again, Denise. And
Thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. This is Janice Hermson. I'm with the LaRue Press Network, and this is What's the Story?